Hello, 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 world. How's everybody today? This is Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And I have here as my guest, Minister Fred Shaw and Lily Bell. And this is a continuation of part four, the series that I decided to do as a result of a video that I had seen by Hassan Johnson, the Fresno State University Associate Professor of Black or Africana Studies. And last time we had you guys to do a brief introduction, and for since this is a continuation, we'll just have you to briefly introduce yourselves again. And again, I'm Louise Hicks, and I'm coin myself as the Mad Black Woman, motivated and determined to bring our community and elevate to a higher level of consciousness. So please subscribe, share, and give it a thumbs up and leave your comments of whatever you think about the podcast. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and give a brief introduction of my guest today. So go ahead and unmute yourself, Lily Bell, and start with you. Lily Bell,
Oh,
there you
oh yeah, here I am. Yeah. Look, I'm sorry about that. I got so much stuff on this desk. I was trying to find the mouse.
go.
Yes,
That's okay.
as you were saying, I'm Lily Bell. I do a podcast. It's called Lily Bell Beneath the Crust, where I talk about what you are afraid to even think about. Um, I am a motivational speaker, published author. I have a book publishing and printing company. I have a school called Lily Bell Academy. Thank you for allowing me to share.
And thank you so much for coming in. And she has a great podcast. I have been listening to some of her uh, content, and it is amazing how she's building and uplifting our Black community to a higher level of consciousness. And go ahead, Minister Shaw.
Yeah, I'm Reverend Fred Shaw. I'm the international spokesperson and director of public affairs for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. That is a mental health watchdog organization that exposes psychiatric abuses such as electroshock therapy that's being done to pregnant women and children from 0 to 5 years of age, and the mass drugging of our children with drugs that cause suicide, homicide, and even sudden death. So I am happy to be on the show, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
Absolutely, because we had a great time last week on our show. And the topic again is Black Love Gender War by Design, the Divide and Conquer Pill. And this particular uh, part four topic is divine love and unity, because we know that's what we need in order to bring us together as a Black community. And we were listening to this podcast by J.R. Wisdom, whom he had brought in the interview to his podcast with the professor at Fresno State University. So let's finish up this podcast video. I'm going to share it, and then we're going to finish our discussion on this tug of war and what the root cause is. If you go back and look at part one, part two, and part three, and part four, because this is a continuation on this channel, my YouTube channel, Aim to Purpose Radio. So let's share, and we'll finish up the video, and then we'll have our discussion and finish up our discussion today. So with that said, let's let it roll.
Literally telling me that you had a class that was dedicated to Black men, where Black women have an opportunity to study their men, understand what they're going through, understand how to relate to them better. And instead of us doing that, you have other women of other ethnic groups, other races going in, taking note, using it as ammo to get the quote unquote best men out there. Yeah. So it's like, how can you compete with that? This is based upon what you just said. It's like, this is why they are winning our men. If that is such a big complaint, this is why these other women, white women, Latinas, Asians, this is why they are winning or stealing, however you want to put it, our men, because they're actually interested in their interests.
Now, this is a very powerful video, if you will, because we cover so many of these videos where we talk about, or at least black women say how all the white women are taking the black men and black men only want white women. And it's because I have to wear wigs to compete with white women, and black men like women with straight hair, so I have to wear a wig, so on and so forth. But you notice how he talked, and I don't know the brother's name. And shout out to this sister here. Was it Shay Charday? Shez Charday? I don't know. Is it Shay Charday? Shez? Some of you guys can correct me. I already know you're going to do that. Shout out to her for having this brother on here. I don't know his name. I'm assuming he's a doctor based off what he's saying. But you notice how he talked when he initially started the class. He said there was a high enrollment of sisters, which we understand when we always toot this, black women are the most educated, and really when it comes down to it, they're the most enrolled, which is what he was getting at. But he said that this was like a black male bashing course, which a lot of educated black women and women from the LGBTQ community tend to do. They bash black men. And he said he decided to switch up his curriculum, and then the black women started showing less interest in it, and the bros obviously weren't too interested in it either. So he noticed the demographic change to the white woman and Latina woman or Hispanic woman. And when he actually pulled them to the side and said, what's up? Women who know, what's the whole thing? Learning your man. Or is it Betty Wright? I can't remember. You guys always correct me. You should be learning your man at the end of the day. If you're looking for someone that you want to be your sustainer, sustain the family, your protector, provider, and things like that, you should want to know their likes. You should not automatically assume, which is what a lot of black women assume, what a black man wants, i.e. they wear the weaves, wigs, and BBLs, and it's what other women want, so you should date other women if that's the case, instead of listening to what the black man wants. So these white women and these other women are making an effort. I know that there were women, there was a Latin woman, she called into Kevin's show, and she said she loved black men. She said she cooks, she cleans, he just becomes this masculine protector and provider for her. She doesn't argue with him. She just exudes nothing but femininity. She's not trying to start an argument, and everything just works out well. But when you have this chip on your shoulder that I'm just going to use his seed and kick him to the curb, and I already expect him not to be ish, then there's going to be some issues. Or you already go into a relationship with a man knowing that there's some red flags, knowing he has multiple baby mamas, knowing he doesn't have a job, knowing he has a drug addiction, and then you turn around and complain and put black men all under the same blanket, if you will, and want it to stick. And that's not really how things work. But this is one of those things that are rarely talked about. It's always, he just wants a lighter skinned woman, or he just wants a woman with straight hair, or these women let these guys walk all over them. That's why. Not so, baby. Not so. Not so. And then women will say they're stealing and they have an attitude. Men don't want to deal with attitude. Men don't want to argue. Masculine men don't want to argue. If you spend time figuring out what a man likes, these are the most successful women. That's why women who sell buns for a living are so good with men and have men keep coming back, because they've realized that. They realize what this man likes. If you really know women, you would know what a woman likes. If you're good with women, you know what a woman likes. You know how to make love to a woman. You know the simple things, the non-sexual attention that you can give a woman without even touching her, how you can trigger certain spots on her. That's what's important. These are the men who are the best with women. They realize those things, how to pull women. But some women just find it too much of a challenge, and they always say that's too much like slavery. I'm not about to do all that. I'm not about to look like a fool. I'm not about to give him my all for him to turn around and leave me for another woman. This is the same thing that's preached in these groups among women, especially these strong, independent, black, educated women who feel like they don't need a man. Meanwhile, the other women are like, no other culture, no other race, if you will. It's just like, I don't need a man. But just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think? Comment below. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Oh, okay. Let me go and stop it. Ah, there we go. Okay, so I just played out the full video, and we heard what this gentleman podcast, who's JR Wisdom, his comments about it. And who wants to start and give me your thoughts on some of the points he was making and the finish out of the video. And I kind of rolled it back a little bit to give a summary of what the previous part one of part four was about, which basically this Black associate professor at Fresno State was providing a class. And he started out with Black men, and then some Black women came in, and then all of a sudden they're saying the Black women were starting to bash the Black men and so forth. But something interesting he did mention there, which was something about these women talking about winning our men or stealing our men. And my thing is, you can't steal. And just to go back to previously what these women had said, when you check out part, I believe it was in part one or two, I believe. No, I think it was part one. They were looking, these white and Latino women were looking to date athletes, specifically football players and basketball players. So what does that tell you, number one? And if that were Black women saying that, the first thing these would be saying, which creates some of this gender war, would be, oh, these Black women are greedy and they're just looking for money and blah, blah, blah. But it looks like that's what these women are looking for. And I'm 73, been around a long time and got wisdom, been married before, divorced. So I already understand what Black men, not males, because there's a difference. I think we need to distinguish between Black men and Black males, because a real Black man is going to, and I know Minister Shaw is going to bring all this out because he is a Black man, not just a Black male. There is a difference. And these baby daddies and baby mama drama. So with that said, and these white women they're looking to get rich and they get some babies, and guess what? They usually end up divorcing these men and they have nothing left, usually in their older age, the athletes to sustain them. Some of them do, and maybe they're learning some sense now. So who wants to start out and give us your thoughts on this?
Well, okay, I'll start. Um, this is a very difficult subject because one of the things that we never can be is the sex police or the determine who loves who or how it goes. I happen to be a Black man that is a pro-Black individual who loves Black women. But I've come across white women that I would have dated if the circumstances would have allowed. Good people are good people. And so sometimes, if I'm running across an Hispanic or if I'm running across a white person or any race, and this is a good person and this is somebody that I can feel like I can do something or grow with or whatever, we can't judge people on that. However, I don't think anybody can come take your man. If you are doing the things that you're supposed to do, I still think that when we look at the statistics, we'll find that it is a small group of people that cross over, and we'll find that crossover both ways. If we go into Hollywood, if you look at George Lucas, his wife is Black. You look at Robert De Niro, I think his wife is Black. You look
They're
at,
divorced.
so it's not like Black women aren't grabbing white men, and the same argument can be used in the same way. Oh, these Black women are just trying to latch on to him because if he wasn't George Lucas, no, she wouldn't like him or whatever. And I'm not, just for the record, I'm not talking about George Lucas per se. And I also want to make it clear, even though the introduction was the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, I'm not representing them talking about this subject. I do it because of the fact that people have to get curious about that information. And so I bring it up more so for this particular show. I'm the president of the Inglewood South Bay NAACP. This is something that I should be weighing in on and so forth. But everywhere I go, because the issue is so important on psychiatry and what is happening to the Black community, I bring it up. But getting back to this, so the thing is this: location, the environment you're in, the social circles you run in. People point out OJ and Tiger, and Tiger's woman was a maid or a nanny or whatever, and OJ's woman was a waitress and stuff. And I get it. And I know in the past, some people thought, well, if you dated white, then you dated right, that, that's what you wanted, means that you was accepted, it means that you made it. And all of that comes from the systemic racism that we have grown up in, developing viewpoints that are other than our own. But the truth of the matter is, people like who they like, but nobody can steal your man or your woman. And if, they say, if you have something important to you and you don't guard it, you can lose it. So, if there's this care, but the reason me and my wife are together right now is because we argue less than once a year. We always seem to be on the same page. We always seem to be doing things to complement and support each other. That's what you're looking for. It has nothing to do with your skin color. It got to do with your compatibility, being equally yoked, as the Bible says, and being on the same type of mission, trying to accomplish the same type of thing.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with what you're saying. And that's why I decided to do this series, because all this bashing needs to go. Everyone has a right to be with whom they want to be, marry who you want to, love who you want to. However, you don't need to bash the other person. And we don't see these other ethnicities out here bashing one another the way these Gen Xers, millennials, and Gen Zs, and we went through that. And I want to share something. I'm going to come to you. Let me give these statistics, because I was looking for the paper and I had given it in one of the other parts, where Black marriage, this was as of 2021, married Black men were married to 85% have Black wives. And like you brought out, it's just a minute segment of Black men that marry white or other ethnicities, and the same go for Black women. It's even few of them that marry other ethnicities. And as far as married Black women, 93% of married Black women have Black husbands. So why are we out here being distracted with this nonsense that we shouldn't even be discussing? And for this professor to have a class, I don't know, I'd like to have him on my show, because I don't know, he's either millennial or a Gen Xer, most likely. I don't believe he's a doctor of with a PhD, not a medical doctor. He's a PhD, associate professor of Black studies. I'd like to know, what was he teaching in this class? Because I have a degree, a bachelor's degree in social work from California State University, Long Beach, which is part of the universities in which he is teaching at, which he's at Cal State University, Fresno. And I have to say, based on my 73 years, I'm like Minister Shaw, I have a PhD because of my experience, my exposure, and everything. So this is foolishness, and it's a distraction from building the Black families and the agenda to emasculate the Black men. And I'm so grateful that these Black men are standing in their truth. The men, I said, not just these Black males out here who are playing games and whatever, and Black women who are playing games, the Black woman. So go ahead, LilyBell.
All right, thank you. I have several points I had jotted down, but I want to respond to something that Minister Shaw has said about if you're doing your job. First of all, Black women do their job. So Black men going to fight women has nothing to do with Black women not doing their job. And I take exception to saying, well, they get your man because you're not doing your job. Because, like I said, we do our job. But the thing is, what the job you expect me to do as a Black woman not you per se, I'm talking about black men, it changes with any other ethnic group. Just like when at the opening, when that woman grabbed that man and snatched him in like he was a puppy dog. If I had done that as a black woman, not only would he have had something to say about that, black women and other black men would have had something to say about that. So when if every time you make your move, somebody paints the wall, you never get to what it is you're gonna do. And that's what happened with us as black women. And the difference between sure, black women date white men, well, there are white men who like, I know white men who like black women. The difference is you don't ever hear those white men out there bashing black women because they like, bashing white women because they like black women. I've yet to see that. I've heard them, like I said, I know some personally. They will talk about why they like black women, they like black women because this, that, or the other, but they don't ever say, I mean, even when you see all these white women and stuff doing their business in this grocery store because they're mad because they were told to get out. You see them screaming and yelling about this, that, and the other. That nobody, not even black men who always want to bash black women, you never want to hear one of them call them loud, now that loud white woman. But if I just my voice tone now, some black man will hear this and say I'm a loud, angry black woman. So, and I'm going to yield, but I have 4 more points I want to make, but I'm going to yield for right now. But I do want to end by saying, no, we do our job. It's just that the ones who want to justify, because that's what I see is that if you got to bash me to get a white woman, that means you don't think you should have a white woman in the first place. I yield.
I understand exactly what you're saying. As a black woman, that's an excuse. I believe that the black men who are doing that, perhaps that's their thing to justify what they're doing, because it has been said in the past that black men were going, this is when majority of the black men that did go out of their ethnic group were going to get back at the white man. And that was used several years ago, I guess, because at that time you very seldom saw a black woman going out of her ethnic group to marry or be in a relationship with another ethnic group. Rarely, but it's becoming more prevalent now. And it's okay with me because as I just read you the statistics, you're right. And for black men, you brought up an interesting point about that happened in part 1 when this woman just snatched this black man into her little space. And if that had been a black woman doing that, they would have said, look at that angry, aggressive black woman. But black women had to go and become the head of the house. And I want to get into that a little bit later about how welfare came about and brought this stuff about. And the angry black woman, that's a myth, total myth, because the black woman has gone through a lot, just like the black man. So it is trauma, generational trauma, as Dr. Joy DeGruy brings out so eloquently. And I shared her book last time, which is called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. I shared this book. I haven't read it yet, but I do have it to read. And also, as a result, if you haven't read the Willie Lynch syndrome, or the Willie Lynch letter, rather, the Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave. And you will see some of this generational trauma that has been passed down through generations. And all of it started in slavery, to emasculate the black man and to put the black woman over the black man, because the white supremacists felt they could manipulate the black woman, and in many cases they did. And also the feminist movement with Gloria Steinem, and black women started to recognize and realize, I think a black woman wrote a book about it, I can't remember the name of the woman or the book, how she got suckered into this feminist. That is not our fight. We have bigger fish to fry than be out here joining white women in this feminist movement. And I still couldn't, I'm trying to figure out why would the LBGTQ come into play, because there's no tug of war between black men and women in that group. That's between men and women and women. So I don't understand how that came into the picture anyhow. And I'm with you, Fred. Who can steal your woman or your man? But it's coming out of pain, not out of anger. And that's pain on both sides, men and women, because until we get the healing that we need, we have broken men just like we have broken women. So we need to stop the bashing and uplift one another. And go ahead, Minister Shaw.
I am so glad you brought this point up, because when I say do the job, I'm not talking about a slavery mentality. I'm not talking about women having to serve him. I'm talking about equally the Black male and the Black woman have to work harder to be able to be a partnership, because there have been certain mechanisms to divide our woman and man that is different from any other race. See, we can say,
Yes.
oh, the expect you not only did we, and you, I'm not going to step on your subject because I talk about that a lot about the welfare system. So I'm going to let you bring that. But before the welfare system, during the civil rights movement, she could get a job and he couldn't. During slavery, master could come and get her out of the cabinet, and you couldn't even do nothing about it but die if you stood up to master for doing that. And he could serve her to his friends. He could do it. So we have had some things happen to us that is totally different, that created this divide that it seems to happen. And in spite of all of that, where the Black man at one time in history here could feel like he was a man because he could have a white woman. See, the white man could have his woman because he could hire her, and then he could use his position of advantage over her. And she knew her man didn't have a job, nobody was hiring. She had to feed her family, so he could take certain liberties of her. Let us remember the way it used to be, not the way it's become all soft and fuzzy now. Let's remember the way it used to be. And that man could, my dad went to work for, they used to call it Autonetics. When he did the interview, they told him he didn't qualify. He said, how come I don't qualify when I got all my paperwork and I got more experience than any guy out here interviewing? The rest of them were white. Because he said that, the guy said, well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a chance. Why are you more qualified, got to have a chance than these other people? And that is how you destroy. So now my mother, they hired her without all of that. So now that sets it up where your man become a dependent. And so, please don't misinterpret me, because there's not many people who respect Black women like I do. I still open doors for people. I still do all that type of stuff. But when I'm saying it, I'm talking about, and on both sides of the fence, there's work that we have to do to protect our community, to make sure we're straight. And when we're demanding rights for one side, we should be demanding rights for the other side. We forget while we're doing the feminine movement that more Black men are unemployed than anybody else. I'm not even
Yes.
saying it's not our fault, because we can make the choice to go to school. We can make the choice to do certain things. But I'm just saying, this thing has been systemic in the way that it's been going down. And even, now we blame each other. I brought up the thing about a bitch and a dog, how we call,
Yeah.
that's because that's the mindset that's been set in us, and no other race does that to their women. So, but no other race did they pay to come with gangster rap. No other race have they done all of this stuff to make sure that you have not taken your rightful role. Because I'm quite sure most Black women would love to be able to be home, or love to have a man that makes more money than they do. Would love to have that. But it's not the way the cards have been dealt so far. And we, as Black people have to change that. We can't ask white people to change that for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's up to us to take accountability and responsibility for ourselves because it's all about your self-love, your love for one another. That's why, as again I said, I'm Louise Hicks, the host of this podcast, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And today we are embarking on a continuation of part 4 of BlackLove, Gender War by Design, to divide and conquer the divide and conquer pill. And today's topic in part 4 continuation is divine love and unity. And that's what we need to bring us together. So go ahead, LilyBell.
All right. Well, let me just say this. I'm enjoying this so far. I'm learning a lot from you too. You know, we share it and all this. And when you mentioned about I think you mentioned about the mental illness. See, that's one thing I made a note about. We have to ask ourselves, okay, and since we were talking about that the video with the male, because I agree totally with what Minister Shaw said. You know, it's both of it's, and you said it also. It's not just the males, and it's not just the females. It's a collective, even down to the children, because broken people create broken people. So our children are broken because we are broken and we have created broken children. So I definitely agree with that. And about far as the illness goes, when you go back to that film, I keep going back to her yanking on him and stuff like that. And you have to ask yourself, well, for me, one of the things that I noticed, because you know, I have a whole series called The Black Man, the Mentally Ill Man, and I specifically say man means female and male. But because I guess the era I'm from, we just use man to signify both sexes. Because and to think about this now, if you're okay with somebody pretty much, I hate to use the word non-human, they're calling you something, because if somebody come and say, well, the only way you're gonna be able to understand LilyBell, I'm gonna have a whole class. You don't see no other race of where the males are have a whole class about how to understand them. So you're being told something is inherently wrong with you, and you're fine with that. If that's not a mental illness, I don't know what is. And another point, and I yield and come back to them later, is when they're saying they only want athletes. They are letting you know they only want you for what you can do for them and their race. They're letting you know that, but you're okay with that. See, that's another sign of the mental illness. If you treat your cause, you'll find your cure. And I'm glad that you're doing this, because what we're talking about now is the cause. If you always put, and I think Minister Shaw, you mentioned about the symptoms and signs, but we're not actually treating what's actually going on. You will never get any favorable results. And I think I may have given this, and I'm going to say this and I'm going to yield. I may have said this before about if you came in the room and you saw my arm bleeding, you can wrap as many bandages and salve and stuff on my arm as possible. But depending on the severity of the bleeding, what's going to happen? Those bandages are going to get saturated. Why? You didn't treat the cause of the bleeding. So you look and say, okay, she's bleeding because she has a gash. So, and now where we are with our children is different. Where we are, we can't really just put stitches in it, because the skin has, some of the flesh and stuff has become what's the word called? Colonized? You know the word. Anyway, I be trying to use words that can't remember, but you know what I'm saying? If you leave a wound open too long, it gets to where the skin, the flesh not going to grow back together. And so we're at that stage with us, some of the flesh not going to grow back together, but there's enough living flesh there where we can start now. How do we put this flesh back together? What can we do? Because if you look at it, if you go all the way back to Marcus Garvey, the same conversation we're having now, Marcus Garvey had that over 100 years ago. There's something wrong there. So thank you. I'm going to yield. I have 1 or 2 more points, but I'm going to yield and listen to the great commentary that's going to come from Minister Shaw. All right.
Minister Shaw. You can
Well,
put your hand down, LilyBell. And I love, oh, before you go, Minister Shaw, I love what you said. A point, I know you made several good points, great points, I should say, LilyBell, but I love that one where you said, who out here of other ethnic groups got a class like that where they're teaching, how did you put it, they're teaching their people how to go and snag another person like this man, Professor Johnson, is teaching these people, white folks, how to go and get some money out of some black men, because that's what they're saying. In essence, they're looking
Yeah,
for athletes, and
exactly.
they're looking for
Exactly.
athletes, football, and they just said it right online. But you let a black woman say that. So that's why
Yeah.
we got to stop and use our critical thinking skills and recognize and realize what we're saying and what we're doing to one another, all by design. White supremacists are having black people to tell one another what they won't say. And when it's coming from a black person, they can say, well, I didn't say that. That's what you guys are saying to one another, just like they're having the rappers, like Minister Shaw said, calling black women bitches and hoes and advocating drug usage out in the community. And what's the other one they're doing? Killing one another out in the community. Have you ever heard a rapper say, go out and uh, take drugs to other women, call other women bitches and hoes? Have you ever heard them say that about other women, other ethnic groups? No, only
Never.
our own. And that's the mental illness on these rappers. And that's why I speak against those that are like that. Some of them are coming out of this mental illness now. But when you're out here doing that, these people, and we know what community that's coming from, Leo Cohen's community, he said it on the Breakfast Club to Charlemagne. Oh, well, I got mouths to feed. He didn't care about these black men calling black women bitches and hoes, and black women are treated worse than any woman on the planet. And for him to say that, Leo Cohen, and you know what community he comes from, like I said, because you know who owns Hollywood, and he was okay with that. But let him say something about one of these other women, a white woman, what are the others? Asian women, Latino women.
Chris
They're going to
women.
come after them. They're not going to do it. So wake up and stop. Go get some therapy because you need it. You need a good therapist, preferably a black
Amen.
therapist who
Amen.
understands you. That's who
Well,
you need to be talking
let-
to. So go ahead, Minister Shaw. I didn't mean to get on a
I,
little tirade
I,
there.
no, I don't know if we need therapy. I think we need truth. And the problem is, the Bible said, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When
Yeah.
you allow somebody else to control your mind, when you allow, what did I say last week? Carter Wilson said, black people are the only people who will take their most prized possession, which is their children, and turn them over to their oppressor to educate. Okay, when you create a situation of poverty, then you can be exploited. So what happens is now I can come in and pay you money to talk about killing your brother and I'm a nightmare walking psychopath talking. I can pay because these people don't have the wherewithal to say no to me. When I owned group homes for boys,
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
had
I got excited.
I
Sorry.
I sacrificed $64,000 a month because I wouldn't drug the children.
Yes.
Now, other people, including some political people, called us fools because they can't understand why you won't sell out these kids for the economic advantage. I'm coming from a spiritual point of view, which was destroyed, believe it or not, by psychiatry. Okay, so the thing is that we don't need to run to the fox because the hens is missing. We just got to realize that the fox is eating the hens. And so if we do that, then but and just to wrap it up real quick, When God was looking for Adam and Eve in the garden, and Adam said, we heard you, we knew you were there, but we hid ourselves because we were naked. God said, who told you you were naked? In other words, all of these viewpoints that we got running in our heads, who told us that was the truth? Who told us we had to believe this? Who told us that Russia was the bad guy and Ukraine is the good guy, that Hamas is the bad guy and Israel is the good guy? I'm not saying, I'm not taking sides on that. I'm just saying, who told us? And why do we believe it? And so one of the things that we have to do is start thinking for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Look at things, say, how is it that way and how is it not that way? What makes this true? Who said it is true? Is it the people who benefit from it being true? Then it's most likely a lie. That's the way we have to start thinking. And if we do that, we'll find that a lot of our problems will dissolve.
Absolutely. That critical thinking skill, common sense, discernment. And I know LilyBell mentioned Marcus Garvey. That's one of my favorite people. Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King, and more present day, Dr. Claude Anderson, who wrote the book Black Labor, White Wealth, Powernomics, and the Black History Reader, Dirty Little Secrets. I mean, Dr. Claude Anderson is a wealth of knowledge, very, very highly intelligent, and he knows these symptoms. He called it the symptoms and behavior. Like he gave an example, I think it's in one of these parts where he talked about the Rodney King situation, where he's beaten into a pulp almost, and the man is passed away. May he rest in peace. And he said, well, can't we all get along? And he said, that's a symptom of inappropriate behavior. All of these others are results of what systemic racism is have brought about. The Black rappers talking all this stuff, calling names, and the drug addiction in the Black community, where it was the drugs were put in there by design. The person who brought it out in this movie, I can't think of the name of his name right now or anything. They claim he committed suicide. Whether that's true or not, I can't think of his name now, because there was a documentary about that, where those drugs were brought into South Central. And I'm from California, wasn't born there, but I lived in California all my life. So that's pretty much all I know. Yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry, LilyBell. Go ahead.
No, I was just giving you was the name Tuki Williams. Is that who you talking
No,
about?
no.
Oh.
The white journalist who was an investigator. I can't think of his name right now.
With the Mercury Bee newspaper.
I know who you're talking about, Tuki Williams. Yeah, I think they executed him.
Oh yeah, they did. But you were saying something about brought the drugs in. I don't
I'm
know.
talking about the
She's talking
FBI
about-
and the CIA
Oh, okay.
that allegedly brought these drugs into South Central LA by design, so that some Black people took of it. I know people I've worked with lost their jobs.
Freeway Rick Ross.
No, he's white.
I give up. I give
No,
up.
the guy.
He's a white Webb. Webb was his last
Webb,
name. I'm pretty
that's his
sure.
name.
Webb.
Oh, okay.
Webb
Okay.
is his last name. They claim he committed suicide. He was a white journalist who this movie was made as a result of him uncovering that the CIA and the FBI were responsible for those drugs coming into the Black community to destroy, because they want to keep us in underclass. Some Black people took the pill. That's why I asked in this podcast, Black Love, Gender War by Design, the divide and conquer pill. So in the depiction of the thumbnail, which pill did you take? The trauma pill or the healing pill? Some people took the trauma pill because they got involved in these drugs, and it helped to destroy the Black community. And that's by design by white supremacists to keep us as an underclass. I didn't take drugs, but there were people who took. I don't even take illegal drugs. I mean, legal drugs if I don't have to. I'm not on any drugs at all. because I take care of myself and try and stay healthy. And that's what we need to be focusing on, our health and loving of self. Because if you love yourself, you're going to be able to love your brother and your sister, and we can bring our Black family structure together spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, intellectually, economically. I mean, all of those, they can come together. And I always like to use that scripture in the Bible. Let's flip the script on them. 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power. And power comes before love, because if you have power, you're going to be able to love. And then of a sound mind, like Minister Shaw said, the renewing of the mind. And I'm very passionate about this, because my goal of having this podcast is to elevate our people to a higher level of consciousness. And being 73, I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot. And I want to get into the welfare before we end. We have about 15 more minutes if you guys have time. So we should have time to discuss. Are you okay with that, LilyBell?
Oh, when Minister Shaw started talking.
Pardon me? What did you say, LilyBell? Oh, well.
Well, she's still on
She'll,
there.
she'll come back. Go ahead,
I'm
Minister.
here.
Oh, there you go. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I
I
don't want to say, what did you say? Go ahead.
Okay. No, you asked me that I have time. I said when Minister Shaw started talking, I threw my clock out the window.
I
Well,
understand, because he's that
listen,
PhD. He knows his stuff.
listen,
I'm telling
hey,
you.
listen. However much time it take, I'm gonna sit here because listen, my objective is one of my objectives is to learn and to grow and to teach. You see, so I'm not just I'm talking, and hopefully I'm sharing something that will help, but I'm also
Yes,
getting
you
stuff that's gonna help me. You see what I'm saying? And
are.
so
Yes,
that's
you are.
so listen, whatever we gonna do this. I don't care. I get me some water, sit here, and then when time's over, when we finish, I'll sit here and wonder, Lord, how I'm gonna make up this time.
but you know,
but the
Louise,
but the point I want to go ahead, Mr. Shaw, did I make my
oh,
point?
no. I just wanted to say to Louise, I commend her because she always have powerful guests, be it you, be it me, be it Dr. Sheena, be it Jewel Bowen. It's always powerful, passionate people she had on her show. And I think that's what makes it unique. And plus, she's unique as a host herself,
Of course,
so I appreciate that,
yeah.
But go ahead, Louise.
Thank you.
Well, I was going to make a point. I was going to back up a minute, then come forward when you were talking about the rappers calling women names and stuff. See, the sickness has women calling themselves names. You cannot be a woman when she's using the B word. And you think about these other ethnic groups and stuff. And let me just say this to anybody who's listening, because I know you two get it. But for anybody who's listening, we're not in no way trying to compare ourselves with nobody else and saying we should be patterning ourselves after nobody else. That's not what we're saying. But what we are saying is, if these people can do this, then we can come. This thing about rewrite the narrative, no, we don't need to rewrite anything. We need to create our own narrative. When you're trying to rewrite something somebody done wrote for you, it's still there. So no, I want y'all to understand, we're not trying to say we should be like nobody but ourselves. But when you were talking about the rappers and different things, I was thinking about well, it's like Sexy Red, for instance. Name me an equivalent of Sexy Red in any other ethnic group. You got these people out here now, one of them Trump even in competition with because they're more popular than him, they say. But you've never seen her bare her body and say the lyrics and stuff that Sexy Red is saying. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So the reason I'm saying this and using this as an example so we can understand. We don't have to try to, and as Black women, we haven't overly sexualized. We understand that. But part of the healing is we got to understand we are more than that. We are more than just what you see. Although I would like to think I'm easy on the eye, but it's more to me than just what you see. And I got to present myself in a manner, because if all you ever see is what's on the outside of me, you're never going to get to know the inside of me. I yield and I come back. I yield.
I understand where you're coming from, because a lot of us go around here saying, I remember Oprah always would say on her show, oh, well, they're just waiting for somebody to validate them. I don't need anybody to validate me. When I came into this world, God validated me. That's why I'm here, and I have a purpose to fulfill based on that validation. So why am I looking for somebody else to validate me? Why are we allowing other ethnic groups to give our narrative? Like I just did a podcast the other day, yesterday, I believe it was, about this little millennial out in California, where I came from and where you are, Fred, Kate Sanchez, out here talking about she's voting no on reparations. That's a debt. And all of her people are out here getting all these handouts and freebies, her kin folks. She needs to go and mind her business with her people. And she's an assemblywoman out in Orange County and Riverside, which I'm not surprised. She's in Orange County and Riverside. And I want everybody to check that podcast out, because this, especially if you live in California, like I pay taxes across 3 states, California, Louisiana, and Texas, and I'm paying my tax dollar. Now they're talking about giving them some the migrants social security out there. That's to further divide us, and all this ties in together because Biden is letting all these migrants come in this country, and now they're talking in California and other states, Illinois, New York, and giving them our tax dollar. And this little hateful woman, Kate Sanchez, had the audacity to say, well, my people had nothing to do with slavery and Jim Crow. Well, my people had nothing to do with your people coming over here voluntarily taking from our citizens, our tax dollars. We had nothing to do with that. Why didn't you stay in your country and fight for what you wanted, just like we fought? And not one Latino that I can recall, and I'm 73, came out and helped to fight civil rights. Some white people did, but no Hispanics or Latinos came out. But who's reaping the benefits? Kate Sanchez wouldn't even be in that seat if it wasn't for the fights of black people and the other few white people that came out. And this is no shade on you if you are a righteous-minded person. It's on the hateful white supremacist people like Kate Sanchez. And I'm very disgusted with her and her nonsense. She needs to go and study her own people, how they're getting all these hands out, coming over here illegally at that. Go ahead, Minister Shaw.
Well, the thing is, I had mentioned earlier when it had to do with relationship between men and women, that which you do not guard, you are subject to lose. Now, see, one of the things that Black people got to stop doing is letting them scare us with the boogeyman. See, what happens is they come at us, and I'm not supporting Trump. I'm not supporting Biden publicly. I'm just being who I am, and I'll vote for who I want to vote for. And the person I wanted to vote for was neither one of them. But the thing is that we have to understand that we have allowed this, because what happens is if they say Negro, Negro, Ku Klux Klan, we all run to the same side of the room and we don't bargain our vote. We shouldn't care if you Democrat or Republican. I tell people I'm a Republican or a Democrat. I'll vote for who I want to, who I think is our best interest as a people and individually. I don't go with the Democrats because they're Democrats or Republicans because they're Republicans. We have to have a different thing than that. See, and what we did is we sat back, and if we were too stupid to see that in bringing to, we thought when they brought all the Latinos over, and I have nothing against Latinos, but we thought when they brought them over, then it would help the Democratic Party be strong, and they didn't realize they were replacing our vote.
Yes.
Now she can say something like that, having never had the suffering reference point that you or LilyBell or myself have had. So no on reparations, because I'm trying to get my people, because that's the only way you would come publicly and say that, ahead of you. I've been to Hispanic meetings where I was invited to come. The whole meeting was in Spanish. It wasn't even an interpreter.
But
So
they
I'm
have you
saying
to
that,
come and English people. That's
but I can't blame them for looking out for their people because my people are too stupid to look out for me.
SOS.
We ain't gotta fight. We look out for the interest and where we can come together and both benefit from eating from the same table. Cool. But I can't let your people eat and my folks don't get nothing. And you ain't gonna let my people eat and your folks don't get nothing. So we have to be able to negotiate all of this and we can let all the people over. But the moment they said that these people could get driver's license, I knew we were double crossed. Because if you got driver's license, that's all you need to be able to vote.
Absolutely.
But again, I'm not putting the responsibility on her or anybody else. It is time that we wake up as a people. We want everybody to do it for us. All poor Black people. I don't want that.
Me
What
neither.
James Brown say? I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Just open up the door and I'll get it myself. That's what we
You
got to start be thinking about.
and we are. There are people out here that are opening up the door and we can get it ourselves. And you're right. These people are looking out for them, just like the LBGT. I hope I said it right, the alphabets. I don't know. They're looking out for them. They demand what they want. Hispanics, Latinos are looking out for themselves. They're demanding what they want. White people looking out for them. They're demanding what they want, and they have the power anyhow. But we have the power too to look out for ourselves. It's a matter, like you said, a renewing of the mind. And nobody is going to look out for us if we don't look out for ourselves and stop kissing up to these Democrats and the Republic. I call them Demorats and Republicats because if the rat not taste, that's what I call them, Demorats and Democrats, because they are one snake with two heads. Racism is within both parties. All of them are corrupt, probably 99.9%. There may be one or two in there that may have a good heart, but these people are corrupt and they are ruining. This country is in a chaotic crisis right now. And it's up to us to work on ourselves and to elevate ourselves to a higher level of consciousness. Like I said, I'm Louise Hicks. I'm the host of this podcast, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. My guest today is Reverend Fred Shaw, LilyBell. LilyBell has her own show. And Minister Shaw, like he mentioned to you, he's part of the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. I'm part of this task force, CCHR, Citizens Commission on Human Rights, International Task Force Against Racism and Modern Day Eugenics. And I'm part of that task force, and he comes in, gives us information. But one thing I wanted to ask Minister Shaw, you said something about we didn't need therapy. And how are we going to heal if we don't have therapy? Just something to think about while LilyBell shares hers, because I see therapy in the makings, because some of us, we need a renewing of the mind and we haven't gotten it. We're still in the Willie Lynch syndrome. We just don't have the visible shackles. And we are not free, because if we were, we wouldn't be in this conversation now. Go ahead, LilyBell.
Oh, I'm sorry, I hadn't unmuted myself. First, I want to say this to Louise Hicks and Minister Shaw. I don't have no more clocks to throw out the window now, so I don't have no more clocks. Listen, this is so good and stuff. I almost threw my cell phone out because it got a clock on it. But I really appreciate. This is. Let me get myself together here. It's so much just want to just spew out of me, like the Bible talk about the water, living water spewing out the belly. Y'all have spewed out some living water from the depths of your soul, and I really do appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. And I wanted to, before I make my point, Minister Shaw, with what Louise Hicks was saying about if we need the therapist, I think maybe one thing we need to define then, okay, what is therapy? See, when I think of therapy, I think about laying on somebody's couch saying, I hate my mama. So maybe we actually need to know the definition of therapy. So you want to answer now? You want me to finish what I got to say, and then you come in and answer? Which one you want to do?
Now go ahead and finish what you got to say.
Okay, so I was going to say, we were talking about, what we have to do for ourselves. And that's one of the biggest things, I think, hardest things and stuff, because I've actually almost gotten into fist fights. I mean, literally and stuff. Sometimes you talking to these people, they get so mad and stuff. You be wishing you had a pocket knife or something, just because you're trying to depart. When I talk about it offends many of us. When we start talking about self-responsibility, what we need to do for self, I agree 100% with you, Minister Shaw. You can't blame these people for looking out for themselves. We got to look out for ourselves. They come into our neighborhoods and stuff, and I got my store here. You would leave my store and go to support these people. So I end up having to close my store, and then you want to blame them because our neighborhoods are in ruins. So along those same lines, the question is, and I'm going to ask this question, I'm going to yield. Okay, along with the therapy thing, I know there's no magic wand, I understand that. But what you two, if anything, do you see that we can do to get out of, because it is an illness, it's definitely an illness, so what do we do to get out of this thing where and I have an idea, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. How do we get into this thing? So,
Well, before we get to Minister Shaw, let me say this so I won't leave this out. A lot of it is generational trauma. Nobody in this country have gone through chattel slavery and suffered the atrocities that Black folks have gone through. And if you never got healing and you've been slated as 3/5 of a person by the United States Constitution, and you've been treated through, after slavery, you were building something out of nothing when people were let go, and then the white supremacists destroyed it. Like I said, Tulsa wasn't the only town that Black folks were thriving in. There were multiple towns and cities, and then they came along and destroyed it. And some Black people got derailed as a result of it because they built something out of nothing. How many people can do that? That tells you we are a brilliant, melanated people, that they fear us rising up. So they want to keep us as an underclass. But we're not buying into that anymore because we don't have the spirit of fear. We have the spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. We just have to bring those who are willing to come along into that mindset and have that renewing of the mind. And until we do, we're going to continue to have these issues that we need to come together and unify and start building together, building financial institutions, medical institutions, educational, most of all, educational. We need that education that Minister Shaw mentioned earlier. And I just wanted to elaborate on that because I don't want to keep you guys in here too much longer. The welfare system, that was by design. And the title, that's why I named this BlackLove, Gender War by Design, to divide and conquer. This one here, divine love and unity, the divide and conquer pill, because that's how they see us, as staying divided. And as you can see, I gave you the statistics on Black men and women being married. So they have not accomplished what they intended to accomplish by design. That's why they're bringing all these migrants in here, giving them handouts. We're not asking for a handout. Reparations is not a handout. It's a debt to the heirs of our people that they committed all of these atrocities upon, the white supremacists. And some people say, oh, well, we didn't do it. It was my ancestors. But you're benefiting from it. You're the heirs from what my folks built. So don't tell me none of that, because I don't want to hear it. And I'm not afraid to speak it, because you're benefiting from it, whether you did it or not. And some of you are still doing it. That's why we're having what we're having now. But the welfare system came in where they got the Black man out of the household, put the Black woman in charge. I know for a fact, because I'm one of the unfortunate one that my parents did not stay together in that sense, but I'm fortunate enough because my parent had common sense enough to instill in us some values and some morals. That's why I'm where I am today, because I had both intelligent parents, highly intelligent. Neither one of them finished high school, but they had more common sense than the average PhD got right now that went to these whites public schools and private schools that are by design to keep you as an underclass. And that welfare system, they would send these little white folks out and they would go in your house, look under your bed, look in your closet. They would line the kids up. I'm telling you what I know because I went through it. Line the kids up and start asking you all kind of questions. That's so degrading and degrading. And that's why I am the way I am. And my mother was a bold Black woman. She would tell a white person in a minute, stop calling us Auntie when they were sharecroppers out in the field. She said, my name is Mary. Call me Mary. That's my name. Because this little white uh, guy out here supposed to be the overseer, he's out here telling these women, and he's a little youngster, might not have been over 18, and he's calling them Auntie. Everybody was Auntie. And my mother got tired of it. She said, look, don't call me Auntie anymore. My name is Mary. Call me Mary. And you know what? That white boy started calling her Mary. And I was there. I was only 5 or 6 years old. And I took a lesson from my mother because we all need to stand up, and like Minister Shaw said, and take accountability and responsibility and exercise that power that God has given us and stop following these rappers and these celebrities because they do not care about us, and they're hell bent on their cars and their cribs, as they call it, because they think they're still babies, I guess, or whatever they think. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Minister Shaw. But I had to say that about that welfare system, all by design to emasculate the Black man and put the Black woman ahead of the Black man.
Well, and truth is truth. So, and you're absolutely right. And most of us who grew up during the 60s and things like that, we saw it come in. We saw them also try to replace welfare by putting all the children on medication. This is my problem with the field of psychiatry and the therapy. At one time, we went to God for our therapy and our refuge. They have replaced prayer with appeal. And so now they created the system. And then they now want you to come to them to fix the system for you. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. See, when we're looking at a group who was, we look at law enforcement, we say they're racist. The field of psychiatry has been way more racist. In fact, some of the viewpoints that they have in law enforcement come from people in psychiatry. When they had killology and the cops were taking that training, those were psychologists that were teaching them to hate Black people and to kill people without fear and stuff like that. When you had what was going on in South Africa, those were actually mental health camps that was being used as labor camps. When we talk about the dark skin, light skin problem we have, we mentioned Willie Lynch, but what about Dr. Benjamin Rush? He's the one that said that Black people's skin was dark because they had a disease akin to leprosy and that white people should stay away from them. And the only way that you would know if a Black person was cured or sane if he turned white. On the last show, me and you talked about Samuel Cartwright, who said that Blacks who ran away from slavery were mentally ill. And walking slow, talking slow, not doing your job, back talk, all of that stuff was cause for mental illness. So why, when I talk about not going to them for therapy, we can't trust them. It's not based on science. That's the hardest thing for people to get. Mental health in this country is subjective and it's not even mental health. If it was mental health, we would get smarter, our IQs would raise, we would think clearer, we would think faster, but none of that happens. We actually commit suicide, go out and commit violence, commit suicide, all behind the drugs they give us when we go to therapy. Now, talk therapy, you're absolutely right. It just depends on who's talking to you. I would bet on me over any psychologist or psychiatrist I've met to be able to help somebody because I've been able to do it. We were right there in the museum and we were talking about this, and this lady confessed that she was on Prozac because her son had been murdered.
Get
And
closer to the microphone. It's kind of a little bit different to hear.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So she said she was on Prozac because her son had been murdered. I can't fathom that. That's the hardest thing for me to deal with. I know how it would affect me. But I asked her in front of the crowd, what was her biggest problem with his death? And she said that she doesn't know if he would go to heaven or hell. And I sat there and broke down this whole thing of life and death and showed her how death is just as necessary as life and how they work together. And I broke it all down to her, and everybody saw her change right there in that room. She laughed and said, wow, she did in front of the whole class. I didn't even realize I was doing it for the class. That's how God works, because God wanted the class to see how this works. Therapy is okay in the hands of somebody that know what they're doing. You cannot trust the modern day people. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and then I'm gonna wrap my part up. I was in Atlanta, Georgia. No, Austin, Texas. I'm sorry. I was in Austin, Texas. They had me at Austin College, and I had a psychologist on one side and a therapist on the other side. And that was the first time I really realized they're different. But the therapist, and I would trust this guy, he said, I've never met a child that actually had ADHD. And I looked at him and he repeated it, because what they're
He said
doing,
he never met a what now?
he never met a child that actually had hyper deficit disorder, attention deficit disorder.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
ADHD.
ADHD. He never actually found the child that actually had it. See, because a kid doesn't respond to you does not mean he's mentally ill. It just means you don't know how to get out of him.
That's it.
What's there. So then these kids get labeled, they get put on drugs, even if the person who labeled them didn't prescribe a medication, another doctor would come in, see the label, and prescribe medication. So when we talk about the treatment, it's not that I'm against treatment. I'm not. It's who's doing it. And I prefer that the men of God take their place back and start being the mentors. And I know churches become a business and all of this, but they need to make sure that they use scripture and so forth to help raise people out of their condition. And they got to know they trade good enough to where they can help people. That's all I.
And you're so right. I'm glad you brought that up about the churches, because our churches are in a crisis too, because they're not elevating our people to the higher level of consciousness. And we know that Sunday or Saturday, whichever day you go to church, that's the most segregated aspect of religion. And I tell anybody, I'm not a religious person. I am a spiritual person. And if I go to a church and I see white Jesus hanging up in there with them blue eyes, I'm saying there's a problem in this church, because look at who they're worshiping. The Bible doesn't even depict Jesus like that. So I'm saying there's a problem right there with this church and the leadership of it. So churches need to get together and stop, as they call it, the pulpit pimps, because that's what a lot of them are. And I speak it. I don't feel that fear. And Minister Shaw and I, we've been knowing each other a long time now, and he puts it on the line. He doesn't hold back. And I love that about him coming into this show, sharing. And you're right. Talk therapy You don't have to give everybody a pill time they walk into your office. And that's what some of these psychiatrists do. And these psychologists will send them over to a psychiatrist because the psychologist cannot administer medication. Am I right, Minister Shaw? So they have to send them over to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist, first thing they want to do before they even find out what's wrong with you, give you a pill. I've had a run-in with them, and I'll be talking about that, about my son who had cancer at 14, and I go head to toe with some of these psychiatrists, and they don't like it, but I don't care because I have to look out for the interests of my son because I don't want him walking around like a zombie. And it's all about the money. Big Pharma is in cahoots because they give all this money to these corrupt politicians, and we got to watch. If you're going to vote, that's your business, but watch who you're voting for. I became an independent back when I was 30-some years old, 40-some years ago, because I saw this two-headed snake, the Democrats and the Republicans, one snake with two heads. And we're going to get ready to wrap it up because we've been about an hour and 15 minutes or so. So LilyBell, go ahead and give us your thoughts, and then we'll have some closing thoughts, unless you guys have something else.
Well, excuse me, no, I guess I'm doing my closing now because two things before I make my point and stuff. I would like to invite you guys on my podcast called the Civil Rights Movement. There's a lot of what we're seeing now. It's actually a fallout of the Civil Rights Movement, even down with the white men flocking to the black men flocking to the white women, because we were told that white was better. And I don't want to get into that. That's another show, but I just want to let you know that's some of the things I want us to cover, the fallout of the Civil Rights Movement. And also with Minister Shaw and stuff, I'm doing a piece called about the IQ test. And I would love for you to be my consultant, if you will, can think about that. And let me, and getting back to what we were talking about with all this going on. And I made, let me see what note that I made. Lord, I got so much scribble scrabble here. I wish y'all could see this paper. I just be writing because while y'all talking and stuff, my creative juices stuff.
We all doing it.
Just look for it. You found it?
Let somebody else say something while I look through my notes.
What I want to say then while you're looking for it is when we were talking about our people holding ourselves accountable and responsible, and we need more men, like Minister Shaw said, to step up to the plate, because you're supposed to be the head. The woman is supposed to be your helpmate. And until some of our Black men stop following a lot of this rap and this food talk, all these foolish podcasts out here where they're out just to make money because they're not elevating, they're not uplifting, they're not even talking with common sense. And it's called SOS, stuck on stupid, and it's called sad, stuck in drowning. So, and they have people flocking after them. So how are we going to elevate ourselves if we are out here listening to what my grandmother called food talk? We got to start listening to something that's going to elevate us. And I know we spoke about it in one of those podcasts, and I wanted Minister Shaw to just tell us what this guy was saying about finger wagging. And I talked about it a little bit after you had to leave the other day, but you gave such much more profound commentary about finger wagging and all of that. So I wanted you to just briefly tell us about that, and hopefully LilyBell will have found what she's looking for, and then we'll get ready to close. But I wanted to say that because we got to take accountability and responsibility. Our men got to start taking that leadership role. And if you watch Dr. Miles Monroe, that's MYLESMUNROE. Dr. Miles Monroe gives information about leadership, information about helpmate. He's passed on now. He died in an airplane crash with his wife and his daughter, and I think somebody else was in there. His son is still living. And Dr. Claude Anderson has an abundance. Get all of his books and read more. We have to read more and do more research on our own due diligence. And you talk about Black people unemployment. I've never been fired from a job, and I tell white people off in a heartbeat. I don't come to your job to be treated like an underclass or a second-class citizen, because I document them. I know how to document them. You just got to know what to do, and they won't be so quick to fire you. But if you're lazy and you don't do what you need to do, have that renewing of the mind, so you don't have to be there worried about mass of firing you off the plantation. I don't ever want to work on the plantation again, because the last time I worked on the plantation, I had to tell them off. I don't come here to be treated like a second-class citizen, because that's how they want to treat you, because they think you have to have their job. And you got to learn how to navigate yourself through this plantation. And they won't be so quick to fire you, believe me, because you got to take care of your family. And I do understand that. So with that said, did you find it, LilyBell?
I did, but if Minister Shaw wants to respond to what you're saying, I give way and I come back after him.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I
The
yield.
finger wagging.
The only thing I want to say is that the reason that finger wagging is demeaning is because if you remember when we were kids, that was the way that mothers a lot of times talk to us. They'd be pointing their finger at us and look. So when you're an adult and you're doing that to another adult, you're demeaning them and making it as if they're a child, like you're talking down to somebody. And so that's the problem I think that people have with finger wagging and things like that. It's what it depicts, the inferiority, superiority aspect as a parent was looking down at a child. So that's what, and I want to tell one quick 30-second story. I got a call one time at work that my son was acting up, my youngest one. And I went to the school and the teacher told me that he had pulled down all the pictures of Jesus. He had jumped up and pulled them all down. And I said to him in front of the teacher, why would you do that? And because my kids know that they can talk with me, he said, she didn't put my picture up there. And I said to the teacher, why didn't you put his picture up? Said him and another little boy painted Jesus black. I don't know where he got that from. I said he got it from his daddy. Okay, now he was only in the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, somewhere there, and he had done that. And but the thing is that this is a black teacher.
That's what I was going to ask. Was that a black teacher?
A black teacher
I
who
suspect
had bought the whole myth. And you know, I don't know because you mentioned earlier about Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey and my grandfather were so close, people thought they were brothers.
Wow.
And the whole, that's why my name is Frederick Douglass and my dad's name is Frederick Douglass. And we have I have an uncle named Marcus Garvey and stuff, because my people come from black nationalists. I met Malcolm X as a kid at our house. I used to ride to pick up James Baldwin at the airport with my parents. You know, Eddie James, all the people used to be around us. So, you know, I grew up knowing what black culture, those big reels, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King speaking, and I'd lay there when all the adults was talking. As long as I shut up and didn't make a noise, I could lay at the base of the wall and listen to, and my father allowed it. As a boy, he thought I should hear these things. So I'm just putting, I don't want to get into it, but we can go to LilyBell and stuff. Oh, in fact, let her end off. She can end off. I just want to tell people, if you want to know where I get my information from, go to cchrint.org, cchrint.org, and you take my email, it's fshawjr@yahoo.com, and put Louise Hicks in the subject line, and I'll get back to you.
Thank you so much. And this has been a great conversation. I've truly enjoyed all the information imparted by both guests, Minister Fred Shaw, LilyBell, who we're going to let her give her final thoughts. And again, I'm Louise Hicks, the host of this podcast, and I will leave with my closing after LilyBell speaks. And today, this was a continuation of part 4 of Black Love, Gender War by Design, the Divide and Conquer Pill. And the topic on this part 4 is divine love and unity, because that's what we need to come together and not let these other folks distract us, because that's all it is. And we're not going to allow it, because we got black media out here, and we know white mainstream media is not going to give it to you. The public schools are not going to give it to you. The private schools are not going to give it to you unless they are black owned private school that knows our history. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. So with that said, go ahead, LilyBell. Oh, I'll be glad to come on your show. Just let us know.
Me
And I'm
too.
sure Minister Shaw
I'm with
will too.
whatever
Yep,
you want. I'm with you.
yep.
Oh, well, thank you all so much. I really appreciate that. I just have two quick things, and yes, I can be quick. My children tell me it takes me 30 minutes just to say good morning. So I'm not going to say good morning right now. I had two things I want to say. When we talk about being fired from these people's jobs, we got to learn to create our own jobs, become entrepreneurs, because see, every job I've ever been on, we were the ones doing the work anyway. We don't have an issue with doing the work. Our issue comes when we think that we can be the one who provides the means of doing the work, you see. And the second thing I wanted to say, as far as like our Black men and stuff, and I've heard other Black women say this, but I'm speaking for me, Black men. I would love to be led around by a man. But let me tell you something. I refuse to be led by a man who's led by a man. And with that, I yield.
You refuse to be led by a man that's led by a man, and you can tell by their actions if they are led by a man. That's for sure. So, and something else you said about LilyBell, you just said it, and it kind of slipped my mind. I wanted to say something about it. I can't recall exactly.
Creating our own jobs.
Oh, yes, that was it. Create our own jobs, because that's so important that we do create our own jobs. Because when we go to that corporate plantation, I know about it. I tell you, it's trauma. And if you go to it and you don't understand how to navigate through it, you got hell to pay. Excuse me what I said, but it's the truth. You can come away traumatized every day if you don't know how to navigate through it, because they don't want you there in the first place. And you look at all these corporate plantation athletes, and I don't mean no harm by that. They're making livings, and look at these white women and Latino women. They're looking for them. The ones that's making the big money. That's what they're looking for. They're gold diggers. And Black women just want to have a decent person. And you know why on these jobs, Black women tend to get the jobs over the Black man, because they want to keep you as an underclass. They figure they'll hire the Black woman and they can manipulate you, but they couldn't manipulate me, because I tell them off. I didn't have no qualms about letting them know the boss is boss, or anybody else. Their attorneys, if they got them or whatever. It didn't matter to me, because I was going to go to law school. I acted as an attorney in the county of LA on my own behalf with all of their discrimination. So it's everywhere. It's not just in the South. I had to fight the county of LA and won my case in pro per, because that's what they call it when you act as your own attorney. And you can do that, because I didn't have a law degree and didn't have the budget at the time to pay all the money these attorneys want. So I went into pro per and won my case against the county of Los Angeles highest attorney out there that was in that area that I was fighting for my rights in. And that's what we got to do. I lost many nights of sleep studying cases, writing briefs, but I had to learn how to do it. And I was going to go to law school. I have a bachelor's degree in social work. And Dr. Hanson is Hassan Johnson, T. Hassan Johnson, if you're listening and you hear this, I'd love to have you to come on our show and give us some insight as to why you feel the need to teach these white women how to be gold diggers. Because that's what it sounds like they're trying to be to me. They want the athletes. They didn't say anything about any other employment from Black men. And if it was my son, you're not going to get to understand my family in order to try to manipulate my son. No, because that's what you're saying. And Black people, you got to start using those critical thinking skills and listening. That's why you got two ears and one mouth. So did anyone else have anything to say before we close?
Oh, I just want to say this quickly and stuff. And I was going to say something to Black women quickly. Black women, and this is nothing against our abilities or anything like that, but the reason they go after the Black man, the reason welfare went after the Black man, because we are viewed as easier to control, easier to manipulate. And that's not saying anything against us. That's the way we are made. You know, we are more now. I think act more of emotion, and which is nothing wrong with that. But I just want to make that clear so we understand the dynamics we're dealing with. Look to your black man if he's worth a leader. Now I'm not even getting to that. Anyway, yeah, I'm through. I'm through. But see, I get all worked up. I'm through. Thank you once again for having me on the show, and thank you once again, Minister Shaw, for sharing with me.
And thank you. And I thank both of you for coming in. And we went about as long as we did last week because
I
we had
know.
a lot to, huh?
I said, I know.
I know, but we had a lot to unpack. It was a great conversation, and we hope that someone will listen to the podcast, and we hope that you will get information to help to elevate you and your family and to bring us closer together because the topic Black love, gender war by design, and that's what it is, the divide and conquer, heal. Which pill are you taking? The trauma pill or the healing pill? And I'm hoping you're taking the healing pill. And if you need to go and get some talk therapy, all therapy doesn't have to, it has to be a qualified, preferably a Black person. I go to a therapist, but my therapist is Black, a Black female at that. And she's very, very capable of talk therapy back and forth, she and I, because sometimes you just need a sounding board, somebody to listen to you and talk it out. So thank you both for coming in. Both of you have been so enlightening, inspiring. You inspire me, and I'm looking forward to your show, LilyBell, on civil rights. I think that's what you said. And I hope you all have a great day. Again, Louise Hicks, subscribe, share the information, share, because that's how we elevate one another. Give it a thumbs up. Leave your likes, leave your comments. We appreciate you. I love you all. Thank you for all the support you've given me over the almost, I guess it's a little over 2 years now that I've been doing this show. And again, I always leave in parting with your power lies within you. Let it loose, and we'll see you next time. Much love, and thanks again to my special guest, Minister Fred Shaw and LilyBell. And we're going to be on her show. So watch out. We got more good stuff coming. Good night.
Righty.